Welcome to our Pace College of Health Professions Dean's Roundtable today. I'm Marcus Tye, Dean of the College of Health Professions. I want to let everyone know that this program is being recorded for future use. It is great to see all of you here. Please, if you're comfortable, turn on your cameras so that our guest is able to see you and make eye contact. And I am very pleased to be introducing today's speaker, Georgia Keresty. Dr. Keresty is an independent board director and advisor serving the pharmaceutical and technology industries. Most recently, Dr. Keresty spent 3 years at Takeda Pharmaceuticals as the Chief Operating Officer for Research and Development. Prior to that, she spent 16 years as a Vice President and Executive Leader at Johnson & Johnson, and the earlier part of her career at Novartis Pharmaceuticals Corporation and Bristol-Myers Squibb Company. Dr. Keresty currently serves on the Board of Directors for Intellia Therapeutics and Solid Biosciences and the Clarkson University Board of Trustees, her undergraduate engineering alma mater, and has previously served on the boards for Aspen Technology and Commissioning Agents Incorporated. She earned a PhD in operations management and an MBA from Rutgers Business School, and she has also earned a master's in public health with a focus on global health leadership from the University of Southern California, a master's in information systems from us at Pace University, and as I had mentioned, a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Clarkson University, and also computer science from Ramapo College, and is probably our most skilled and multi-degreed speaker in our Dean's Roundtable series, with a very, very impressive CV. She completed the National Association of Corporate Directors Directorship Certification. We are very fortunate to have her here today. Dr. Keresty, welcome to our Roundtable series. We are so pleased to have you with us. At this time, I would like to turn it over to you to share a bit about how your experience at Pace and elsewhere has been beneficial to your career path.
Thank you, Dean Tye, for the warm welcome. And good day, everyone. It really is a pleasure for me to be here with you today to spend about an hour talking about my background, but your opportunities in the field of health science, health professions, and how those opportunities may connect with other disciplines. So let me first start by addressing a little bit about my bio that you heard from Dean Tye. It highlights my work in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry and as a board director, but it really also focuses on me being a student. And you heard that in how many times I've gone back to school. And I want to address that because it's how I have learned and been able to be productive in my career the best. Everyone learns differently. Everyone takes different paths to grow their career. And for me, it had always been and is still that good marriage and alignment between the work I do every day and structured learning. And so, you heard I started with a degree in engineering, and with that degree, I started my career in the pharmaceutical industry, working third shift manufacturing. That's what was available. It was an opportunity for me to jump in and learn about the industry from the manufacturing floor, how pharmaceuticals were made, how they're regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, how they are packaged for patients, how they are prescribed, the importance of labeling of our pharmaceutical products. So I could honestly say that I started my career kind of from the ground up. At the same time, the industry was changing, and I hate to even admit this, but when I started, there were no cell phones. There weren't even laptops. There were big desktop PCs. But little by little, in the manufacturing area and on the manufacturing floor, automation was starting to take hold. And I quickly realized that this was something that I just didn't have a good background in. And so while I was working third shift, about 5 miles away from the plant was Ramapo College of New Jersey, and they had a computer science course. So I said to myself, I'm going to take one class. It'll be a nice way for me to get more familiar with computers and with automation and how I could utilize that in my day-to-day. And one course led to another, and I was able to finish my bachelor's in computer science. And I figured, okay, I'm going to stop there. But I missed that really structured learning environment, and it challenged me to learn new things. And this is where I found PACE. And this is where I found the opportunity to continue my education now at the graduate level. What PACE offered for me was a number of things. It offered flexibility. And when I looked at my scientific background and my bachelor's in computer science, I wanted to continue down that path. And PACE offered a master's in information systems. And I was able to focus my work on automation in the manufacturing plant. And so it really was ideal for me. What it also offered was flexibility around my work schedule, because I was still working third shift, yet there were courses that were offered in the evenings before work or in the mornings, which for me was after work. So I was able to really structure a good learning environment to complement my work environment. And finally, I think the flexibility around location. I went to the PACE in White Plains, and so I would drive over the bridge to attend. But it allowed me to continue that close alignment between my day-to-day work and my learning, and ensuring that I was staying at the top of my game and really current with what was happening in the industry. This continued throughout my whole career. I saw opportunities, and the nice thing was that all of my employers were very supportive of me continuing my formal education. Some paid most, some paid all, and some didn't pay anything, but it was still for me an investment in myself. And most recently, about 6 or 7 years ago, I finished my master in public health while I was out on assignment in California. Once again, I had a work schedule that allowed me to continue studying, and I took advantage of that. So how does all this add up to the career that I have? I could honestly say that I have spent and I'm going to say 40 years working in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry. 2023 will be 40 years since I started in this industry, and I still love it. I still love coming to work every day. I utilize every bit of my career and every bit of my educational background in order to do my job every day. Since I prepared my bio just 2 weeks ago, I started at a new job as a chief operating officer of a biotech startup. We're getting our feet wet and starting up a new little biotech company. And I still utilize every aspect of what I learned over the course of my professional and educational journeys. Now, one thing people ask me is, well, when you weren't in school or when you're not working, what do you do? And I do other things. I do lots of other things. I enjoy sports. I enjoy reading and being outdoors. But there are 3 things that I want to share with you that you may want to consider as you venture out to a new career, maybe to expand your career. And the first thing is your involvement with professional societies. It's one thing that I have taken advantage of throughout my career, and that does a number of things for you. It keeps you current and on the cutting edge of what's happening in your discipline. It keeps you connected with thought leaders. It gives you opportunities to grow your leadership skills, whether it's at events or whether it's presenting a paper or facilitating a panel. So those professional societies are a great way to complement your formal learning and your job with the opportunity to develop other skills. So that's the first thing that you may want to consider, expanding or even starting your network within that professional society. And the second thing is that network and growing that professional network. A number of the positions that I've had, and even 2 of my board of director roles, were secured because of my network, because of the people that I've met along the way, who I've stayed connected with, who I've helped. And it's a very, very powerful way to help your career, to help navigate your career. And it takes a bit of work to build that network and stay current, but it will pay dividends in the future. So as you are continuing to expand your educational footprint and your work footprint, be very thoughtful about building a network, because the people in your network will rely on you, and at points in your professional journey, you will rely on them. And then the final thing, and it's along the same lines of what we just talked about for networking and being part of professional societies, is staying connected. Like, I've stayed connected with PACE since I graduated in 1988, and it seems so long ago, but it was a journey for me that I enjoyed. It made a huge difference in my career. And so for me, staying connected with PACE and with the other institutions that I attended is really important. So those are some things that, aside from the education and aside from what you do for your professional career, these are things you do for yourself as a professional, as a leader, as someone who maybe in the future will be mentoring others, maybe in the future will be taking leadership roles at a company or in an educational institution, and all those things really help. So the last thing that I want to talk about is the work I currently do in industry, and how there are so many opportunities for disciplines to converge. And we talked about that a bit when I came on the Zoom call. We talked about that with Dean Tye and the others on the call. When I started in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry, little did I know that there would be such a convergence of disciplines, whether those be management disciplines, disciplines in automation, machine learning, and AI. And it's an opportunity to take advantage of those intersections. One of the responsibilities that I had as a chief operating officer is to oversee the clinical trials that we run for new products, to see if there's the activity that we need for those products. And one way that those processes are being disrupted are through automation, through being able to do those clinical trials remotely, or maybe not do them on human beings at all. Be able to model them, to see how a new product or a new entity might work in the human body without ever having to do a clinical trial. And that is the convergence of big data and clinical approaches. And we see that throughout the industry. Same thing on the manufacturing floor. When I started right out of engineering school, on the manufacturing floor was a production supervisor, a quality control person to test the product, someone to supervise the operators who would manually adjust temperature and pressure and run the equipment. Now, when you go into a state-of-the-art pharmaceutical manufacturing facility, there is a control center that runs all the equipment. All of the sensors for pressure, for temperature, automatically catalog how that process is running. There is testing done all along that process. And so there is no longer the need for all the human intervention. so much of it is automated, even to the point of when the product is finished, a full summary, a full digital summary of the process in the product is made available. So you could quickly see if that finished product is fit for purpose, if it meets all the requirements. That is, again, now the convergence of engineering and manufacturing disciplines and automation and data. And so everywhere you look, there is this convergence, and especially in the medical fields, like we just described, whether it's manufacturing or clinical trials, or even in basic discovery research, where scientists are looking for new products to try and test and bring to market, as well as all the way on the other end with our patients and having automated medical records and medical histories, so that when you go to a doctor or you go to the hospital, your medical history can be maintained digitally. So if you're not able to, or if a family member isn't with you, there are ways that the medical community could quickly start helping you because of some of the automated processes and automated medical records that are available. So, lots of examples of where this intersection between different disciplines is coming at us fast and furiously, and we need experts from both sides to come together in order to get the most out of this and make this a really robust opportunity for all of us. And for me, it continues to offer challenges. It continues to give me the professional and personal satisfaction of being in this industry and staying current. And then the last point I want to make about that convergence is, when I started in the pharmaceutical industry 40 years ago, I started with your basic pharmaceutical forms, tablets and capsules. They're your most simple type of pharmaceutical form. And then the industry progressed, and I moved to injectables and sterile products. And then the industry progressed, and I moved to biologic products. And now I'm working with cell and gene therapies, which have the opportunities to cure, not just address symptoms. And so it's exciting to see that evolution and the journey of the industry that I've been part of for so many years. It's exciting to see that convergence with lots of different disciplines. Many, if not all of the disciplines I talked about, are available for study at Pace and other universities. And in the end, it provides for a career that I've enjoyed and continue to enjoy. And I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to share with you today. So let me stop there, and we can open it up for some questions.
I have a question to start it all off. So obviously you talked about there were a lot of transitions within your career, and I know the workforce is moving more and more towards that being the case for a lot of people in the workforce instead of just staying one place. Do you have any recommendations on the kinds of skills that our students should be developing so that they can handle those kinds of transitions in their careers in the future?
Molly, that's a great question. And let me start by saying that there are core skills that you develop as a professional that are portable, regardless of what discipline you're in or what you study or where you work. And a few of those are as follows. Good communication skills, being able to communicate thoroughly and clearly and comprehensively to a global audience, because any industry works globally. Communicate with fellow collaborators where English may not be their first language. be able to communicate scientific information when someone may not have a scientific background. So really honing those skills to communicate verbally, written, in presentation form is key. The second is, and the only person who can answer these questions are you. Know what you kind of like and know what you don't like. Here's a great example. Early in my career, I had come to a decision tree, one way or the other. And one way was to be a deep, deep, deep expert in one thing, to be an inch wide, but a mile deep, and be that expert in one area. And the other path was to be more of a generalist, study and learn more broadly, many, many different things. And from my background, you could see which path I took, but I have to make that decision. And so there may be decisions that you have to make in terms of what you enjoy doing. Are you willing and do you want to travel for your job? Do you want to work in a group or be maybe more of an individual contributor? Those simple things that you could think about ahead of time and start as you are in the work environment. What do I really like doing? That will help you when you come to those transition points. And some of those transition points are planned, and unfortunately, some of them are unplanned. And I've been through both. When they're planned, you have a little bit more time to prepare, to think about things, but when you're unplanned, you don't want to be caught off guard. So some simple things you can already be incorporating into your professional development will help you if you hit one of those unplanned changes or a planned change. So think about that. Think about whether or not continuing your education in another discipline, to go deeper in the discipline you're in, if these things will be helpful for you. The bottom line is preparing yourself ahead of time and having that good, simple understanding of what really excites you every day about work, about your job, about how you learn, about the environment you want to be in and working in, can help you when those transitions, both planned and unplanned, may come up.
And we have a question in the chat from Alexandria. She asks, how do you stay connected with your network and how do you build your network?
Great question. So let's talk about building first. And the building part is a piece where it's very deliberate. Building from groups you may be part of, building from your classmates at PACE, the professors at PACE, jobs that you may have been in, an internship. That's where you begin to identify who you may want to be connected with. And think about it this way. The people that you're connected with are going to be networked with and connected with. The best way to think about it is as a two-way relationship, in terms of you want to be connected with them, but you also want them to be connected with you. So it's a win-win that you can share, that you can reach out. Now, how do you do that? You do that a number of ways. I referenced the value of being part of a professional society. Networking is probably the most valuable part of being part of a professional society. And this is where you meet someone, you exchange contact information, you reach out on LinkedIn, and that's that initial connection. But how do you stay connected? Here's two examples of how I stay connected with my network. I have a network of people that I've met in the technical areas, on the manufacturing floor, in the laboratories and the like. And once in a while, I'll come across, a great article or something, and I'll send it out to them saying, this was a great article on X, and send it to them. They may not have seen it. And a few of them like, wow, this was great. Thanks for sending it to me. So that's one way, right? Become a resource, become someone who will share information, share an opportunity, a headhunter or a recruiter might call, and you may not be interested, but you may take the recruiter's name down and reach out to one of the people in your network and saying, hey, this recruiter just called. It sounds like an interesting opportunity. If you're interested, here's the name and number. So those are the ways that you can stay connected. The other ways are, if you see that person, take 10 or 15 minutes and say, let's grab a cup of coffee or something to drink, or let's just sit and chat. I think you would be surprised at how valuable that is, just to meet with someone periodically, if you see them on campus, if you see them at a professional meeting and the like. And then there will be that time where you will need their help, whether it be help with a job search, help with a technical or a work problem that you have. And that's where you shouldn't hesitate to reach out to say, I know that your background is in so-and-so. Would you be willing to brainstorm for 10, 15 minutes with me to help me with X, Y, and Z? So you're being respectful of their time. You're only asking for 10, 15 minutes. And vice versa. Someone is going to be contacting you at some point and saying, gee, would you be a reference for me? We were in, so many classes together. I'm looking for a new job and I'm going to have to give a reference list. Would you be a reference for me? And again, there's that win-win in that give and take. So, I'm not gonna make it sound easy. It takes a little bit of work and some thought, but I can't tell you how valuable and how important that network is, and it pays dividends in the end. Some of the most important connections I made are connections that I've had now for many, many years through many companies and jobs and the like. The dean of students at Clarkson University. So how long ago was that? 40 years ago. He wrote my recommendation for every school I applied to. And I saw him about 2 months ago. We had coffee. I was on campus. He's retired. And we were kind of reminiscing about that 40-year journey. And he's been part of my network since then, since I was an undergrad student at Clarkson. And so there will be some people in your network that will be lifelong connections for you and become, very, very close professional and or personal connections. Build that, take advantage of it. It will, again, pay off for you in the future.
Wonderful. Oh, Jillian, I saw you raise your hand earlier. Go ahead.
Thank you. So in talking about networking and its importance, what do you look for in students / young adults when you're recruiting for these positions or internships?
It's a good question. And, it's interesting because I typically hear from students, people always ask for experience, but unless I get that first job, I'm not going to get experience. So kind of how do I work through that? And so the first thing I look for, recognizing that many people who may be applying for that first job don't have that experience, I look for good preparation. Here's what I mean. So I look for them to have done their homework about the job, about the company, or about the position, about the skills that we're looking for. So if someone comes to an interview and isn't really clear on the company they're applying for, there is so much that you can do to learn about that company just doing some simple searches on the web. So understanding the company, maybe the values of the company, the products, where they work. Are they just a US company? Are they a global company? What their most recent business success was. Did they get a product approved? Did they just understanding a little bit and knowing that about the company before you come to an interview is already showing that you're interested and you're being diligent to prepare. And then the second is about the job itself. Anytime you're going to apply for a job, there'll be some type of job profile that says, here are the skills we're looking for. Be prepared. If it's going to be listing 3 or 4 of those skills, go through and prepare it and think about, okay, if they ask me, have I ever done this? Well, I haven't, but here's how I'm going to reply. I haven't done X, but here's the skills that'll be required. And these are the skills that I have. And so, when I interview and speak with people who are new to the industry, I'm not looking for deep expertise. I mean, they're brand new to the industry, but I am looking for them to be having done their homework and being prepared for the conversation. So they aren't one-word answers, so they can really demonstrate that, I've done my own work on your company, and be prepared to ask some good questions about what the company, what the job would entail, where the company works. What's really become important to a lot of people is the ethics and the values of a company. Who do what is the group of clients that the company serves? How do they work? How do they work with the communities where their offices are or their plants are? How do they give back? How do they respect the environment? How are they committed to things to support the community? So be prepared with those kinds of questions as well.
Thank you very much. And also thank you for addressing it for people that specifically don't have that first job into the medical field. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we have our next question from in the chat. Can you talk about the value of interdisciplinary education as it applies to being in the workforce? How can you, as a student, break down the academic silos to help you in your professional role where you are working with an interprofessional team?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I do have people say, well, if you're interdisciplinary, meaning that you have 2 or 3 or more, don't you have to have like a main one? Don't you have to have an anchor? And you do. And so that's usually how I try to approach either myself or working with someone who brings those interdisciplinary skills, is to start with, what that anchor is. And you get to choose that. And for me, that anchor is the scientific expertise that I have. And what I see as complementing that anchor is the expertise that I bring in the operations and management space or in the public health space. But I always lead with where I'm the most comfortable and the most confident. And that's kind of with that anchor, what I call an anchor in a interdisciplinary background. And then understand and be prepared to share. Here are those areas of overlap that I could contribute to. Here are those programs or projects or previous successes I've had where that interdisciplinary expertise brought value. Here's where I was able to bring scientific insights into a marketing discussion. Or here's where I was able to bring understanding of the digital space into something as boring as a product pamphlet. So you get to control that conversation and kind of tout your own skills a little bit. What I've found most helpful, again, for myself and in speaking with others who bring a multidisciplined background, is to start with that, what I call, it's my own term, what I call that anchor space, where you feel the most confident, where maybe it was the first thing you started studying before you started branching out. And so it gives you, again, that opportunity to start from a place of deep expertise and maybe a little more confidence, and then explain how the intersection with these other disciplines has been exciting for you to learn, exciting for you to be part of, and maybe brought value to the classroom, value to the job you're in. And it's interesting. I just wanted to share one example. When I decided to go back for my master's in public health, I was on assignment out in California, and I said, gee, maybe this would be really exciting. So I looked into it, and the USC program was close by, and so I applied. And we were a class of almost 80. I was the only engineer in the whole class, there were a lot of nurses and social workers and educators and people who studied public health, but there was only one engineer. And when we had to go around and introduce ourselves, I was already really well into my career and I was nervous. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to tell everybody? I have to really think about how I'm going to share, my background with maybe people who are a little younger in their career or don't know what an engineering background brings. And that's exactly the approach I took in terms of explaining what my primary or my anchor area was, and then how that has helped in everything that I've done. So, it's something that I used too pretty recently. So.
Thank you. And next question from the chat is, did you have any mentors that helped you guide through decisions and throughout your career? I know you mentioned the dean of students at Clarkson.
Mm-hmm. I did. And I've had some mentors that have been my mentors my entire career, and other mentors that have been my mentors for very, very discrete segments because there was something very specific that they brought. When you work with a mentor, you have to be prepared for them to be really honest with you. And sometimes they'll tell you things you just don't want to hear, but you do have to take their feedback and their advice and consider it. And so here's a good example. You heard from my background, it has been really operationally focused, from being an engineer to my PhD in operations and the like. And at some point in my career, I said, maybe it's time for me to consider that next step and running a company, being the CEO of a small company. And my mentor said, that's not going to take advantage of your strengths and your skills. I was crushed when I heard that. But at the same time, we had that honest conversation, and I've maintained that chief operating officer role because it took advantage of my strength. It's where I've had a lot of success. And they challenged me. They said, but it's where you've enjoyed working. You've enjoyed that type of job. And you may be considering here's what the next move is, but you also may be moving into a role that you're not going to enjoy as much, that you may not have as much success in, and you just have to think about that. And so, they were right. And so my last two jobs, and the one I just took last week, was in that operations space. But sometimes you have to be prepared for what they're going to say and, listen. Ultimately, you make the decision. So it's not like they're the decision maker of you. You're the decision maker of you, but you have to listen because they may be seeing things and giving you that feedback from a different perspective that you're not considering. The other thing is, when you are engaging with a mentor, same thing about being prepared. I had someone in my last job, ask me if I would mentor her for about 6 months. She was, going through some decisions about work and further changes in her career. And so we agreed it would be roughly 6 months. And I said to her, if you want me to mentor you, I'm more than happy to do that, but there's going to be work on your part to prepare for our meetings. And she didn't do that. And so after about 2 months, I said to her, you asked me to be your mentor and you haven't contributed anything to that relationship. You schedule the meetings and we come to the meetings, and you haven't been clear what you want to talk about, what you want to brainstorm. And if you're not going to be prepared, then I'm not going to waste my time, is pretty much what I said. And so when you enter into that mentor relationship, again, it's a two-way street. You have to be prepared. You have to be really clear. What are you asking for if you're going to ask for someone to be your mentor? And so think about that. And again, a mentor could be someone for just a few weeks. Just help me get through this big presentation. let me brainstorm, how I would explain X, Y, and Z. Or like the dean from Clarkson has been my mentor for my entire professional career. So think about, that mentoring being something you could customize. It could be very specific. It could be very general, but take advantage of it and realize that it's a two-way street, and you're going to be the one driving that relationship in terms of what you want to get from it and how you want to prepare.
Awesome. Okay, we have another question in the chat. Do you think that having a computer science background helps you become more successful in the pharmaceutical industry?
It's interesting because so much in the pharmaceutical industry is moving in the way of digital science, whether it be data analytics or computer science and the like. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go get a degree in it. There are many opportunities for you to maybe do a certificate program, which is much more targeted. It's much more, it's shorter in nature. It's very clearly defined, and it may be more than sufficient for you to supplement the background that you already have. And so the best thing to do is, if there's a job that you're interested, if there's a role that you aspire to, really understand what's going to be required, because you may have already 80% of what you need, and that last piece may not require a full bachelor's degree. Maybe it requires just some additional courses or a certificate program. There's some great certificate programs that target digital science in the healthcare industry and in the life sciences. So the answer could be yes, but the answer could be no. And a lot will be based on where you see that destination or what you're targeting, what's really needed. And then, be really honest, say, okay, here's what's really needed. Here's what I already have and I'm really confident about. And that gap could be maybe closed very easily without having to do a whole nother degree program.
Okay, I had another question. I'm curious as to how you stay updated within the pharmaceutical and the biotech industries. Are there any go-to places that you go to get the latest news, newsletters, podcasts, what have you?
Yeah. And here's where those professional societies are invaluable to stay current. Some of the good things that happened because of COVID are that most societies and the large meetings they hold now, there's always a virtual component. You can always participate in certain things virtually without having to attend the whole meeting. It is probably the one area that I have utilized the most to stay, on the cutting edge of new developments, whether they be in companies, new development, and educational, an academic discovery, is through those professional societies. And there's many of them. And if you think about it, those professional societies are really run on volunteer power. It's not as if, people are doing this as their primary job. Most of the people, most of the officers in those professional societies are volunteers. And so it's a way to stay really engaged, volunteer some time. But if you don't want to go that far and just want to be in that membership, it's probably the best place to stay current in your industry, but also to keep your network. Because when you go to those meetings, if it's a day-long meeting and there's 2 or 3 people there in your network, you could say, hey, let's sit together at lunch, let's grab some coffee, or, this is a great presentation. Why don't we go to it together? Again, you're kind of mixing staying current with keeping your network really engaged and taking advantage of being at that professional society meeting. The other thing is through the universities and the academic environment to stay current in terms of what research is done, what papers are being presented. in the scientific space is where there's IP that's being generated. So there's lots of ways. Again, it comes back to it's up to you to drive that. It's up to you to be kind of on the offense, to keep your network current and to keep your connections current and to stay kind of on the cutting edge of where your industry is going.
I have a question. Earlier, you were talking about how a lot of prospective employees are looking at the morals of a company. How would you help our students when they're going into the workforce to ask questions like what should they be looking for to determine a company's culture?
Oh, it's a great question. And the first place that any company, large or small, highlights that is on their website. And there's always a page that's called governance or social responsibility or something along those lines. And what you will find on there is a statement of responsibility that they have, whether it's to their community, to their patients, to their shareholders, to partners who they work with. So that would be the first place to go and find that. But then as you're reading it, you're like, do they really do all this stuff, or is it just what they're saying on paper? That's where some of your additional kind of, exploration could help in terms of what if they say that they're committed to their communities. Then, you can take that next step and either look or you ask the question during the interview process. Gee, you say that you're committed to the communities where your company works and where your employees live. Can you give me 2 examples of how you've fulfilled that? And then they'll tell you about, the fire truck they bought for the fire company, or the school program they do for women in STEM or something like that. So again, start with what's on their website. They also will highlight a lot of good things. So there may be something that's in there that you were like, wow, that was really great. And so during the interview, you could say, I thought that was really exciting. Tell me more about it. Tell me more about it. How many employees participated, or did you just throw money at it, right? How does that change the work environment? What opportunities does it give maybe for new students to come to work at your company? So again, if it's common theme, your preparation, but you can start with what they have there and then use that to question them. If this is what you say you do, and this is important to me, and this is a place I want to come to work, what could I expect? Could I expect to participate in things like this? And so that's how I would approach that.
Thank you. I feel like it tied back to what you were saying about preparing for the interview.
Yeah, and
more questions you come with, the better.
Yeah, and I'm even going to go so far as to say, don't think you could just prepare the night before. If it's a really important interview for you and it's a company you're really, really interested in and excited about to get the interview or get the opportunity, really invest a little time there, because it will be so obvious to the person you're speaking with, whether it's a virtual interview this way or in person. It will be obvious to them. And when you say, this is a company I'm interested in, it's a job I'm interested in for this reason, it'll shine through that you've done your homework to learn about the organization.
Go ahead, Dean Tye.
Hi, for those of our students here who are going on for licensed health professions careers, or rather than a corporate or research track, what do you think might be the most exciting innovations that you see happening in pharmaceuticals and biotechnologies that might wind up impacting the next decade of their careers as frontline providers?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And what we are seeing is a shift from the physician being, I don't want to use the word in control, but really being the source of the primary information. We're seeing that shift more towards the patient and where that patient interface is, because there's so much information available. Good example is you can go on clinicaltrials.gov, a website, and every single clinical trial that's run in this country is on that website. And so if there's an area that you're interested in, a disease state that you're interested in, you could search that out. And so recognizing from the disciplines and the degrees you talk to that those patients are going to come in and feeling that, you know, they're owning their care and they're owning and they want to be part of that decision-making process is really important, and it's really powerful. Here's how it translates into the pharmaceutical industry. As we've developed products, we have to think about products being delivered at home, right? No more you have to go into a doctor's office to get an injection. Now we have auto injectors that can be used by the patient at home. And so, you know, that patient-centric thinking has become a big driver in what we do in research and development. Everything from the type of dosage form, right? That whether it's a tablet or an injectable or the like, everything from that to how the information is shared in the patient insert or in the prescribing insert. And so keeping that idea of that patient centricity or that patient-centric approach in mind is really important. We're seeing it in our clinical trials. We're running clinical trials now where the patients don't have to go to the trial center. We may bring the product to their home to make it easier. We may use wearables to track things such as blood pressure or temperature or heart rate or things like that. So again, there's that convergence between some of the digital areas with the medical areas, but really focused on the patient being at the center. And it's been an interesting transition in the industry, because for a long time we felt our customer was the doctor, right? Because the doctor has to prescribe most of the products. No more. We feel our destination or our ultimate customer is the patient, and the doctor is intermediary there. But that's a very, very different kind of thinking for someone in R&D or someone in manufacturing.
And then a very quick follow-up for the students who want to get a job right after their Bachelor of Science in Health Sciences. Where
Yes.
do you think is the best place to invest their energies in applying?
Oh boy. No, and again, maybe I'm biased because I'm in R&D and physically making that product, but two areas that I would think would be of interest. One is in the running of clinical trials. There is always the need for people who have experience, and it doesn't have to be years experience, a degree in health sciences and healthcare to help running those clinical trials, working either directly with the patients or directly with the company, or being the interface with the Food and Drug Administration, who oversees every clinical trial. That's an exciting place that gives you the opportunity to see and understand the impact on patients. And that's important for a lot of people. Another place is in a healthcare institution, whether it be a clinic or a hospital or a doctor's office or a health practice, to see some of that in action. And, you know, once again, I kind of tend towards, at this point in my career, seeing the patient as the ultimate customer of all the work of the pharmaceutical industry and the like. So those might be some interesting places. And then finally, and this is for everyone, every single pharmaceutical company, biotech company, healthcare company on their website has a recruiting section. They are always posting open positions. It allows you to upload a resume, set keywords to trigger sending new job opportunities to you. Take a look at what's there, because what's called X at one company may be called Y at another company, yet it's the same job. So as you're looking, don't just go by the title. Don't just go by what the job is called. Go by what the job does, what's going to be expected of you in that job. And keep an eye. There may be a company where, wow, that interface to be, in the department that works with the companies developing the products and the sites recruiting people for clinical trials and making sure with the health authority that we're meeting all of our good practice standards. That might be a great job, and it allows you to keep an eye on opportunities that come available that way. But don't just go by the title, because the same job could be called 5 different things across 5 different companies.
I know we're almost out of time. We have time for one more question from our students or faculty or staff. Well, not seeing any other questions. Let me say a thank you very much to our students for attending. I know you have really busy schedules and great questions that I found very informative.
Yeah.
Our faculty and staff as well. To Molly for moderating, as well as the many folks who helped organize, including Erica, Stephen, Sophie, Jody, Molly, Joe, and more. And especially thank you again, Dr. Keresty, for taking the time to speak with our students and sharing your wisdom, graciously offering before the talk to let students reach out to you by your LinkedIn. Sure. We appreciate that. And students, if you just search on LinkedIn, she'll be willing to reach out. And it is always wonderful to hear from our successful, accomplished alumni. And I'm sure our students on the panel will be our accomplished and successful alumni of the future. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dean Tye.